Well, good morning. We should be back up and running now. So to shine. Oh, every week I guess we have plenty of reasons to allow ourselves to get lost in the dark. And it's difficult. It's difficult to remember that we are one with God, and that God is one with us, and that everyone else is one with us, and that God is one with everyone else. Because in times of suffering, we struggle with many questions. We probably have some excuses for our own present condition, and may have also found someone to blame for things. It's easy. It's easiest if we look into the world. We can see many reasons why we can blame others for our suffering and for the suffering of our loved ones, and maybe even we focus on suffering of people that we don't even know. Sometimes it seems that we are at the mercy of an unmerciful world, and that life seems to be conspiring against us. But this is when we surrender. This is when we realize that alone, in this aloneness, in this loneliness, that we are powerless, that in the struggles of the ego, there's always going to be great disappointments. But when we admit that our self-centeredness is not the way, there is another path that opens to us. We begin to sense the power of creation just by getting quiet for a moment and saying, I of myself do nothing. It is the Father within who doeth the work. To say, of myself I can do nothing. I need help. Of myself I can't fix this problem in my life or in the world. I need help. We admit that self-centeredness, the ego's way, is not the way. And another path then opens up to us. We begin to sense the power of creation that moves through us as we sit quietly and allow our awareness of the presence of God to grow around us. It becomes more apparent. And we can make a decision to carry this feeling, to carry this presence with us when we get up and go out into the world. This really provides for a relaxed sense of power. It gives us this focused ability to create, this focused ability to allow ourselves to flow easily with nothing to worry about. We become immersed in that river of life. We immerse ourselves in the river of life. The water's warm. We're able to relax into it. We become aware that this river of life is really the power of God, and that we are immersing ourselves in this power of God. And it becomes easy to remember these affirmations that I am in God and God is in me. I'm connected to life. Occasionally, we may think that we are disconnected or apart from, but nevertheless, in truth, we are linked in this never-ending web of life. We're linked in a never-ending web of life. It seems many times that we are not, that we are disconnected, but the fact of the matter is we have a part to play in creation. And the only decision that we really have to make in regards to this is how effective, how well will we play the part. Thinking that creation has invested itself in us, to realize that there really is perfection in us, to realize that this presence of God in us really is that divine presence. It really is that divine identity of us. That perfection is in us, part of us, and that we are part of it. And that perfect employment means that we employ perfection that is in us to a good end. So it doesn't necessarily mean our job, although it includes our job. It means that we employ the perfection within us to a good end, no matter what we're involved in. It's easier to do when the work we choose complements our talents and abilities. And it's when we fight against these connections that we stick out like a sore thumb, that we stick up like a nail, as the Japanese say. We stick up like a nail that needs to be hammered down. So we work on this centeredness that we did in the meditation, this the centeredness that comes from focusing on the breath. And to remember all throughout the day that anytime I feel distressed, anytime we feel at odds, we can just stop for a moment. It doesn't even have to look like we're doing something. We're not being conspicuous in our prayer. We're just stopping for a moment and focusing on the breath. But remember that it is a process. And we've begun, and whether we realize it or not, we are changing. We are changing back into the changeless divine aspect of ourselves, where there is actually something going on inside us. We are involved in a great spiritual evolution. And it is happening. I know sometimes it seems like it isn't, but it is happening. We are moving upwards in consciousness. And each decision to move in the direction of something greater, each decision to move in the direction of something greater than our small selves, each one of those decisions moves the process forward. And with each moment of honesty, we involve ourselves more fully in the ultimate truth. No need to worry about mistakes or missteps. We just don't deny them. We recognize them, and then we go in a better direction. So we recognize them, we shine the light on the mistake. We not try to hide from the mistake. We don't try to hide the mistake from others. We shine the light of truth on the mistake. We look at it for what it is, and then we ask help from the Holy Spirit to show us what it really is. We don't try to hide it. We don't need to hide it. We look at it and just watch how it is forgiven, how it is healed, how it is changed. We keep moving forward and upward, and when things seem hard, this is a reminder to keep moving forward more. It's to remember the path of life is ever upward. The path of this spiritual life is ever upward. Of course, sometimes it seems like it would be easier just to to give up, to stop trying, especially when we see the horrendous things that seem to be happening around us. But we can let go of, we can release that confusion. There is a difference between giving up the ego and giving up the ghost. When an endeavor is only about money or property or prestige, surrender is in order. When the contest is against our own best interests, the only regret is in the quitting. No quitting. If the work becomes difficult, we try to relax into it. Some of us struggle, and it may seem necessary, but we remember the words, easy does it, but do it. Sometimes we think we have to be in control. Sometimes we think that in order to accomplish these goals, and some of the goals we may think are of really great overriding importance, and we think that we have to be in control, but that's the ego. So we have to remember that we are not in charge. We are in charge of our own thoughts. We are in charge of our own mind, but we are not in charge of the change that we're looking for. Divine order is in charge. To think about this idea that our life is in divine order, and with daily surrender to the presence of God within us, we become aware of the order of all things. This divine order is just another term for God's will. Now, we have our self-will, and we can decide to do things that may look like they're in conflict with God's will, but eventually it'll all come back around. God's will, good will, divine order means that no matter how things appear to be, there is an intention, an opportunity, a pattern for good in the midst of us. When we allow ourselves to feel the love of God, it's not so hard to see the pattern. The pattern of good. Making the right decision is natural. If we become at ease and able to direct our efforts with the help of the Holy Spirit. Sometimes we might think about all these mundane things that are happening, and we get the idea that we are just a cog in this big machine, and I would say, okay, let's go along with that. Okay, I'm a cog in the machine, but I'm an intelligent cog in the divine machine. And I understand that many times I'm just not seeing the patterns. And when I realize then that I need that guidance, I need Spirit to show me the patterns, then it starts to change, and I'm not just seeing the patterns, I am the pattern. I become a strand in the great tapestry of life. And we work on acceptance, to accept responsibility for life, to realize that excuses are just another way to complain. All the excuses that we use and hear in daily life. I'm so busy. I'm just not feeling that well today. I'm sick. My stomach hurts. I guess I just don't have it. I got low energy today. I just can't seem to get on track. Let's stop it. Let's stop it. Let's stop making excuses. Oh, they're going to come from time to time, but as soon as an excuse comes out of our mouth, let's just stop. Let's just stop and say, man, look, if I made a mistake, if I didn't do what I should have done, if I didn't do it fast enough, let's just stop and say, I take responsibility. If I made a mistake, if I didn't do the thing that I needed to do, let me just stop and say, I want to take responsibility for it in as straightforward a manner as possible. And then let's not get distracted. If someone else made a mistake, it's probably better to say nothing at all. Just allow them their mistake. Perhaps they'll admit to it, perhaps they won't. Don't worry about it. Even if we had nothing at all to do with the shortcoming, it really can't help to point it out to them. Unless they ask. Okay, fine. They ask. Share it. We accept what is. We accept what is, what happened. Our mistakes, other people's mistakes. We accept what is. And then we do our best to facilitate a solution. No excuses. And it leads us back to the surrender that we talked about at the beginning. To surrender, to say, I am surrendered. I surrender to the power of God within me and all around me. I surrender. This power of God shows itself as the desires of our heart. I surrender to the desires of my heart. Not the desires of my ego. I surrender the desires of my ego to the desires of my heart. I'm going to decide, how do we want our lives to be? We examine our aspirations. We review our goals. It's great. Let's write down goals. We review our goals as we're in the middle of the year. Right now, we're in the middle of the year. Review the goals that we set at the beginning of the year. Review those goals. See how are we doing? How are we doing? But most importantly, we realize there's really only one goal. There is really only one goal that is worthwhile, and that is peace of mind. A peace of mind so deep that we can share it with the world. And so are these goals still in alignment with our purpose of service, our mission to help alleviate suffering, and overarching goal of removing the blocks to love? We've already written our goals. We review them. If we haven't written them yet, we take a moment before we commit to a single goal. And in that quiet moment, we surrender the ego to the creative power within ourselves. We allow ourselves to be embraced by the universe. We can ask Spirit within us to guide us in our choices, to allow our hearts to shine, to allow our hearts to shine its light on the path in front of us. And after a little while, we may let go of our most cherished desires. We may be able to give them into the hands of Spirit, to allow them to flow out from us, first onto paper, and then out into the world. We remember this. Well, this idea that you can't have everything is not a negative statement. It is a reflection of reality. We can have anything. We can have anything. But in truth, not everything. There is not enough time to deal with having everything which catches our fancy. So in choosing our goals and those things that we're going to move forward to, we decide what is important and we put our focus there. We decide what is we always remember, we say this and sometimes we gloss over it, we put God first. Meaning God being the unity of all life. We put unity first. We put God first. We put harmony first. We put peace first. And then these other goals just become added extra benefit. And so finally, there's something that most of us are probably aware of that has occurred during the week, and that's the shootings in South Carolina. And I want to shine some light on that right now. And we've seen a lot of disinformation. And if you have been following the tweets, I sent some tweets out concerning it. But let's... well, Well, first, to say, as some of the news pundits have, that these shootings were an attack on Christians, an attack on Christianity, this is really just a convenient attempt to shift focus to another agenda. The agenda of the far right, the agenda of what we would call the religious right. To say that these shootings were racism is correct. This is just a statement of a simple truth. The shootings were motivated by racism. And to deny that is just to not want to look at the truth of the matter. To say, okay, so what's happened here is this was a racist act, and we need to take that fact that it exists, and that it exists everywhere in our society, and to bring that ugliness to the light. Not to try to hide it, not to try to cover it up, not to try to say, oh, we've come so far, to minimize it, but to bring it to the light, to bring all of that ugliness out to the light, and to say racism is just fear, which has clothed itself in hate. It is the same fear